So hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dynamic Women in Leadership Summit, where we have 21 amazing leaders and experts who are going to share with you their tips and tricks and stories to motivate you, teach you, inspire you to move forward in your life and business. And next, we are very happy to welcome Catherine Deluca, who's going to share with us from Survive to Thrive, how change management skills strengthen business success. So welcome, Catherine.
Welcome. Yes, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Well, I have done a lot of things in my life, but for the past 15 years, I've actually been working in tech. And I've been implementing software projects, some successful, some not, I'm going to admit it. And one of the things I figured out through that is everything in life is actually a project in some way, shape, or form. And one of the key factors we found in success of our program, of our software when we did implementations, is that we could do the best job of configuring our software product. It could be, and it still would have a high level of dissatisfaction with users.
Really?
And what we found out is you could teach someone how to press the buttons in software, but if you don't teach them why it's going to be good for them, they want to go back to their old ways of doing things. And you can't just do that once, you have to do it over and over again. So the principle of change management, you have to hear it 7 times.
Seven
times in order for someone to fully integrate what you're actually telling them. So coming in and doing a one and done training is that here's the buttons you press, they'd go away, then they'd all they'd have me come back again, and they'd all go away, and they'd have me come back again. And it's one of these things where all of a sudden it clues in. So I'd done some change management training, and I started integrating that into my training program when I did the software. So I said, okay, now so we've learned how to press the button. What are you going to use this for? How is it changing what you're doing? Most of the implementations we do, it's case management software for social services. Most of my implementations were going from people using a form and a piece of paper in a paper file. And we were asking them to say, no, you're not going to do that anymore. You're going to come over here and do it all on the computer. And you can see you laughing, saying, yeah, that's going to work really well. So I just took it and said, I can't implement any more of these projects anymore without a change management component. I don't care that we're not actually including change management in our scope of work. It's going to become part of my training plan. And so we started to see some really incredible results when you're saying, I'm not training you to do this. I'm training you on a new way to do your work. Here's what's in it for you. So another key concept of change management. And so then I realized it doesn't really matter what the project is. The key factor for success is making sure if you're doing something, whether it's personally for you at your work, is to make sure that you understand that the people that are going to be impacted by what you're doing understand what's in it for them, understand why they're doing what they do. I integrate that now in my own life, but we've had to integrate it a lot at work. Although we all work with computers, so this is, people say, oh yeah, tech is easy if you work in tech. Well, software that creates software. We use things that implement it. We used online chat and online this and online, meetings and things like that. But we didn't do the pandemic shift very well from, yes, we have a lot of meetings, but most of our meetings are a group of people in the Victoria office with a group of people in the Vancouver office sitting in one room with a screen. And it was not about the fact that every single person was in a totally different place. And how do we make that work? And so that's kind of the guiding thing of why I did that. And I see Mary's comment here. Tech's not easy for many of us in tech. And my kids would also do that. Like, you're using different tools. And, my kids would tell me that. They would say, Mom, how could you not know how to do this? You work in tech. I'm like, I designed specific software that I use to train people to use. And we have specific tools. You take me outside of my commonality, it is. And one of the biggest problems that we had is like we have here. People don't want to turn the camera on. They don't want you to see what they're wearing, or if they're wearing their pajamas. They don't want you to see what's behind them. This is my house. This is my kitchen behind me. This is where I work. This is who I am. And this is how it is.
Yes.
So, the pandemic did a whole bunch of things. It told me, okay, we have to figure out how to fix this at work. We have to make sure that it's not just work, it's work-life balance, make sure people keep it.
Yeah.
And it became a problem. We had people we're all living in fear, we're all living in isolation, and things changed. And so about I would say it started in March, and all of a sudden everybody's working from home, like not transition. There was no transition. It was everybody who could work from home should be working at home, and you need to do it now.
Yep.
And so there was no transition. There's no planning. There's no ability to say, hey, does everybody set up properly? Does everybody have a laptop they can take home? We had staff who only had desktops, but they weren't taking the desktops. They had to learn how. These are developers who are used to having a desktop and two big screens, all of a sudden had a laptop.
Very different.
Then, you've got what that means to your family, what that means to your kids, what it means to the people around you, and where you live and what you're doing and your friends. And it became really big. Yeah. I think we all went into survival mode, and I certainly did that. I'd kind of been in that before. So just be a little bit vulnerable. In 2017, 2018, 10 months apart, I lost both parents. And my mother was first. She was somewhat expected. She had a whole bunch of health problems. My father was very unexpected. And so in 10 months, I lost both parents. And shortly after that, we get to all of a sudden 2019, and we're all in pandemic mode, and 2020. And it's like, I've barely got over that. You're telling me I got to stay home by myself. My kids had both moved away. So it's like that fear and that isolation. And it was like, how do I get myself back to, that's been my life, and also working with people at work. How do I get away from this? I'm in survival mode. And when the pandemic's over, it's going to be fine, to getting back to getting to the point of saying, I have to get to a point where I don't care that there's a pandemic. I have to figure out how I thrive through that. So that's where I came to the idea for this particular talk, was how do we say, not that I don't care about the pandemic, but I need to thrive through this. I need to not just survive and wait till things get better, because they're going to get different, but they're not going to get to where they were.
Well, you mentioned the survive to thrive. It's in the title of this as well. Tell me about why the mindset shift from survive to thrive is just so important to you.
When I realized I was in survival mode, I was making decisions about my life I put everything on hold. I literally was surviving day to day. I work a stressful job. I really want to create my own business. I'm at home all the time. The problem with the survive thing is, okay, well, what do I have to do today? Not what do I want to do? I want to get through my 8 hours of work because I really want to work on this afterwards. How do I get through today? And I realized my day to get 8 hours of work in was taking me 11 hours.
Wow.
Because I lost focus.
Yes.
I lost the ability to, it's like, what am I going to do if I don't work? Like, really, I'm going to sit in my apartment all day anyway. So, hey, but I'll get up and I'll do laundry and I'll get a snack and I'll walk down the stairs and up the stairs because the gym is closed. But it kept that way. And it was interesting because as we were looking at the work and looking at our team at the office, I was talking to my partner, Cindy, one day. We kind of worked in partnership, similar roles, but very different. And I said, this is how I'm feeling and this is what's happening. And how do you think everybody else is doing?
Yeah.
Because we work really close together. We talk 3 times a day, even though she's in, we always had, she was in Victoria, I was in Vancouver. We were sort of a team on implementation and project management. And I said, how do you think everybody else is doing? So we started to watch times when they started and times when they ended and what was going on, and not, people weren't talking about life anymore. Like, we'd have a meeting and there was no 2 minutes of, hey, check in, how you doing? That stopped. It's okay. Now we got to, because we got to get, and it became a very, very visible that there was becoming a lack of engagement. Like what Ali spoke of earlier, it's this lack of engagement. It's this ability, because we were working from home, people didn't want to turn on their cameras. Everything became a step back and less visible. And it became really way too focused on, have you done this task? Have you got that done? Have you done this? Have you done that? And it started to have a really negative input. And so about 6 weeks in, it was no longer, hey, look, I'm not commuting I'm not in my car, 2.5 hours a day anymore. I'm not benefiting from that 2.5 hours. Is everybody else feeling that way? So we started to talk about it a little bit and realized those stresses I was not uncommon. The way I was feeling was not uncommon. My daughter down here in Nova Scotia was feeling it. My son in Toronto was in so touch a total lockdown. He couldn't go anywhere, do anything, and nothing was open. Like he was bike riding in the barren streets of downtown Toronto. But like, what do I do? And so what are we talked about what are some of the things we can do, but it was like, wow, you know what? If I'm feeling this way, everybody is. How do I switch this? I don't want to do this for however much longer we're locked down, or however much longer COVID is the #1 news topic in the world. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I'm too old to say, oh, I'm just going to get through today and then think about tomorrow. So it was kind of taking that step back and saying, okay, how do I do this? Who do I engage with? What do I do? Who do I connect with? How do I make sure that I'm staying connected, not only through work, which was really important because we had a team of people who probably weren't thriving either, but also in my personal life and what it is. So it's like, take a step back and say, hey, what do I want?
Yeah, exactly. Asking yourself what you want is really important.
Yeah. And so we, one of the things I mentioned in my thing was, the whole tips, tricks, and traps of working with a remote team, because we had to go through what was going to work and what wasn't going to work. And some things didn't work. So I'll tell you right now, the whole cameras on thing, that does not work with introverted programmers and developers and QA people and business analysts in a tech environment. They don't want to go cameras on. So it was like, okay, how do we work around some of this? So we did struggle with what we could do and what we couldn't do, and giving people the flexibility to say, okay, if you're going to work from home, how do we make this positive? So we said, okay, people are working all over. Like I'd try and get hold of a developer and they wouldn't be online for 4 hours because they're dealing with their kids who are home from school.
Oh, yes, I knew that too well.
So they don't respond, even though they're theoretically there, they're not responding. So we sat back and said, how do we make this easier? How do we make this work for everybody? So we said, okay, let's not worry about the workdays 8 to 5. Yeah, like you should try it with teenagers. Yeah, okay. But we said, okay, normally we work an 8-hour day. We take a break for lunch, 9 to 5. And I said, okay, well, what if we do something different? What if we say, we're going to put all our meetings into a 5-hour window, and we're going to ask everybody to be available 4 of those 5 hours, depending on the meeting schedule.
Yeah.
Be available, come to the meetings, engage in the meetings. The rest of your day can happen whenever you want. If you want it to happen at 2 in-the-morning, go ahead, deal with your kids, deal with their life, and do that. And we asked them what would work best.
Yeah.
It's, the team, our team members who had school age kids said, oh, can we do it like not first thing in the morning? I have to get them settled into schoolwork. I have to get that morning routine done. We actually settled on 10:30 to about 2.
Oh, okay.
All our meetings happened between 10:30 and 2, and whatever hours everybody else wanted to do to get the work done, that was okay. And it was more about making sure that, we respected the fact that, I don't have kids at home. Mine are in their 20s and they're grown and flown, as they say. But a lot of our team members had young kids, like everything from the newborn baby all the way up through school age and elementary stuff. And so we had to respect that particular stress that was happening in their day. We asked them if they were online, please try and keep your team status. Are you available? Are you in a meeting?
Yes.
So that we know. And if you have to step away, and if you can't do something during those 4 hours, email us, the whole team, say, this is what's happened. This is what I have to do. We're going to, and again, it was trust. We're going to trust that you're working 8 hours a day when you're booking 8 hours in your thing. We're going to trust that you're going to get your work done. We are not going to hold what is your task list, Scrum type meetings.
Yeah.
we're going to respect the fact that we're all adults, we're all professionals. And then we had to deal with the whole other thing was, where are you doing your work in your house? How are you going to achieve work-life balance? We had one person who, because the kids were home and using all the desks, were sitting at a chair in front of an ironing board.
Yeah, or not enough Wi-Fi.
We're not enough Wi-Fi, working at the kitchen counter, using a laptop, but not having that second monitor. I'm sitting here, I have two monitors. This is my personal, my work is over here, and I have an extra monitor with my laptop over here. I can't work without them. So we had to say, okay, you could come, what do you need? You can come to the office and get your extra monitor, your keyboard, your mouse, whatever you had in the office, so that you can make this all work. We got more people onto using a VPN versus a remote desktop, because if you're on a VPN, you can use both monitors. If you're on a remote desktop, it's all sitting on one. So what are those kind of things? So we really didn't worry about too much about the work. We didn't worry about the out. We worked on what are the things that are going to make this easier for you. And if you had said to me in March of 2020, everybody's going to be working at home for the foreseeable future, everybody would have laughed. We didn't even have a policy. We didn't have anything. We've had to come out, and even now, every once in a while they talk about it. It's like, yeah, no. And somebody laughed. They said, yeah, well, you took care of it the ultimate way, because then you get into what happened to me. And so did this have on me and my skills, my goals? And I learned how to read between the lines. When fine doesn't mean fine, when fine actually means things are crap right now.
Yeah, exactly.
As a leader, it's really important. You have to be able to tell when there's crap going on they're not telling you about.
Yeah. And if I can add in, Zoom also was clicking into the idea that people didn't want to see themselves. And so there's a few things there around people, maybe like when you're in a room, you're not going to stare forever at someone's face, right? When they're not part of the conversation. But in Zoom, you could stare at someone's face for a long time. And so having your own face right in front of you all the time is psychologically very hard to handle. And so they created the hide self view button. So if anyone is wanting to be on camera, but not stare at their own face, I used to cover my face with another little note box, but you can actually in the top right corner of your video, is the hide self view button. I can't do it now because I'm being recorded. But that is something that even Zoom saw. People don't want to see themselves. And so they made that change. Now, for you, you've talked a lot about the struggles that had to happen. You guys had to make quick changes. I'm hearing that probably moving forward, every company needs to have a work remotely plan in place. But what impact did this really have on you and your goals by having to do it this way?
Well, by the time the pandemic started, when I first moved to West, I had family. I had a cousin. I had, people cousins in Victoria, cousins in Vancouver. I had friends who had come from away, which is a very Nova Scotian expression. But my daughter had moved down to Nova Scotia to go to Dalhousie University. My son was living in Toronto. My mother's family is all out near or around Toronto, and my mother's family is all down here in Nova Scotia, and I'm from here. And one of the things that happened was I realized that, wow, if I really want to thrive, is this apartment in North Vancouver really going to serve me long term? And that was one thing. And I went, okay, so you know what? You got to make a plan. If you do want to go home, and everybody was saying, look, you need to come home. You can't stay out there by yourself. You don't know how long this is going to go on. I had a significant birthday and I went, wow, I'm out here in BC. It's a significant birthday and I'm at a Zoom call party with the family. I'm like, okay. A really good friend of mine, she dropped in and brought me a cake, but it was like, yeah, you know what? Maybe this isn't working for me. So I kind of kept it to myself. And then it got to be about, I don't know, August or so. And my daughter announced to me that we were talking about Christmas. And she said to me, I'm not getting on a plane. So no, I'm not coming to BC for Christmas. I am not getting on a plane.
Yeah.
I can't. She has some anxiety issues and stuff. So she wasn't getting on a plane to come, because I said, Dad, both kids, I'll fly you out to BC. And I didn't want to come here because at that point in Nova Scotia, they had everybody must quarantine for 2 weeks on their own, not in a room with family, but on their own.
Yes.
So I started looking and saying, okay, if I'm going to go for Christmas and I'm thinking about going to Nova Scotia, so I want to check out this, I want to check out that. And I totaled up the cost of, 2 weeks of quarantine, and my daughter has a bachelor apartment. Nobody else had space. So that's 6 weeks of renting an Airbnb, renting a car. And I looked and went, that's a lot of money. I don't know about this.
Fine.
And at that time too, it was like, that's a lot of money. And so I'm like, okay, so I'm not totally happy here. I really want to be around family. I really don't want to live in a city. I really don't. I hadn't for a while. I thought this is my future goal, is to move out to the country. So
yeah.
I explored the opportunity of a place called The Crossing here in Nova Scotia, and it's out near Windsor. It's in the country. It's a 55 plus empty nester community. And I said, I want to come check it out. I'm thinking of moving here next year. And so we had a conversation. I said, this is when I'm coming. She goes, okay, well, we'll take a look. Christmas, you can come and see if this is where you really want to be, and blah, blah, blah. And so I go off, and it's like October. It's still October. I've got to make this decision. There's decisions. If I'm going to go for Christmas, I got to get this lined up. The more longer I wait, the more expensive the flights and the rental cars and the Airbnb and everything else are going to be. So then I get a call back from the property manager here, and she goes, so are you still coming? Do you know when? And I went, I don't even know if I'm coming. It's just so expensive by the time I look at everything. And she goes, you're still thinking of moving? I said, well, yeah, I haven't talked to anybody about it, but yeah, I'm thinking of moving. And she goes, well, I have a little house. It's a 2-bedroom mini home in the mini home side of the community. And it's brand new, was spoken for December 1st, and the gentleman is backed out. What do you think? It was October 26th.
Yeah.
And it was available December 1st. I have all the symptoms we talked about earlier about procrastination.
Yeah.
How do you make decisions? You got to make them fast. You got to do this transition. I'm thinking, what do I do?
Yep.
All I could think of is in my heart was, I have to do this. This is what I need to do for me. And yeah, there's repercussions. Do I have to leave my job and not have a job when it's pandemic time? Is this the right time? Is it not? And I had 5 days. And I'm like, okay, well, I know what any particular family member is going to say, but I will talk to the one who will be realistic. And that was my sister who lives in Connecticut. Phoned her and I said, how crazy is this scenario? 1 to 10, 10 most, 1 least. She goes, 2, do it. So I gave my notice of my apartment on Halloween, Saturday, Halloween.
Wow.
Please. And then I talked to the company I work for and said, you've already approved for me to work from Nova Scotia from the beginning of December to the end of January, middle end of January.
How about forever?
What if I don't move? What if I don't come back to BC after that and I stay there? What are the possibilities I can keep my job? I said, this isn't about wanting to leave Avocet. This isn't about the work. It isn't about working with you guys, although it can be fairly toxic sometimes, but been there 15 years, whatever. I said, but this is about what I need. This is about my decisions. This is about how I did it and what I did. And my boss goes, well, I don't know. I said, okay, well, I'm going to show you something. And he goes, what? I said, within our software, we have an outcomes-based goal planning module. And he goes, yeah. I said, me, I hate SMART goals. They don't quite do the whole picture for me. But here it is. And I'd written it all out using that same format that I trained people on, social workers, to train them on for an accreditation-based goal service plan. I said, here it is. This is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. And I really went through and did a plan. Career, life, what are my big goals? What are medium-term, short-term goals? What do I need to do? What are the actions I need to take to get what I need out of life? And I said, I'm not done with working on this software product. I'm not done with this yet. And I said, I really don't know that it's a good time to go looking for a job in Nova Scotia.
Wow. This sounds like really this is where Thrive came from. You were able to really plan things out as you want. I want to make sure that we get your gift in, and then some final thought. It's a link to the PDF that includes two things: an outline of the outcomes-based business framework that she uses, that Cathy uses for both her business and her personal life, and the tips, tricks, and traps that we utilize when transitioning from an in-person to a virtual team. 30 seconds here, Cathy. Final message to our audience.
Don't be afraid of change.
There we go.
Don't be afraid to make the quick decision. If you've done a plan, if you've looked at it and you said, I got to do something, you come up with what you want. Don't be afraid. Don't hesitate. I did the whole move down here I decided the 27th of October and I moved on. I was on the 27th of November.
Wow. That's awesome. Amazing.